when you talk to someone who is irrationally passionate about something, they might even sound kind of crazy. And sometimes we call this crazy, crazy awesome at 15, 17, where you're like, I can't quite tell if this person is crazy or crazy awesome. And sometimes it takes a while to figure that out. But that irrational passion for a space is really, really important. That's what's going to take you through the difficulties of starting a startup.
Danielle Strachman is a top venture capitalist
who invested into companies like Loom
and Lambda.
You have to be that irrationally passionate person to get through those hard times. One of my biggest learnings is that...
Welcome back to Decoded. My name's Alfie Whattam, and this is the show where I speak to experts about what it takes to build great teams and companies. Make sure that you click the follow or subscribe button for more great content like this, and I hope you enjoyed the episode. Danielle, you're the founder of 1517, which is invested in Loom, which is literally one of my favorite products. I use it like 50 times a day, like Lambda and so many other successful companies, like massively successful startups. So what do you look for, like personally, when you're deciding to invest in a business?
Yeah, one of the things that we look for with almost anybody we work with, whether it is the investments we make, we have a grant program, we have a teen camp we run, the sort of main thread through everybody is that they're irrationally passionate about something. And when you talk to someone who is irrationally passionate about something, they might even sound kind of crazy. And sometimes we call this crazy, crazy awesome at 15, 17, where you're like, I can't quite tell if this person is crazy or crazy awesome. And sometimes it takes a while to figure that out, even once we've made the investment. But that irrational passion for a space is really, really important, because that's what's going to take you through, like, working through and executing on the difficulties of starting a startup with people who maybe see like, there's a business model innovation here, something like that. That tends not to get you through the dark night of the soul of, hey, fundraising's not coming together, me and my co-founder are fighting, all the troubles. And so you have to be that irrationally passionate person, I think, to get through those hard times. That's one of the highest indicators that we look for.
So what's the difference between a crazy founder and a crazy awesome founder?
You know, it's interesting because sometimes the line is quite thin, and sometimes someone might be crazy in one area and crazy awesome in a different area. Crazy awesome tends to look... Well, crazy awesome looks like, hey, they're actually able to execute and keep making progress in this domain. That doesn't necessarily mean it always 100% works out, but they're able to like go the distance. Sometimes I talk about, you know, you've got to have like a mission or a calling or a muse, and then you've got to keep putting one foot in front of the other to do it. Crazy tends to look a little bit more like, has really big ideas, but can't do those footsteps of like, okay, how do you actually get there? They might be someone who's really articulate, really interesting. But what we want to see is that like you can actually do the boots on the ground work as part of it. Now, what's funny is sometimes this is about point of view and subject areas too. So we may have, you know, founders that we work with where they have like crazy ideas about physics and crazy ideas about religion, and we might be like, their ideas about physics seem like on the crazy awesome side, and their views about religion seem like maybe on the crazy side. And so it's kind of fun. The people we work with are very dynamic and interesting.
Yeah.
And like, for example, the founder, Austin Russell, we worked with at Luminar, somehow we've had a lot of successes with L-named companies, which is a little bit funny. But for a long time, we were like, okay, is he crazy or crazy awesome? Like, does he really know his physics here to bring LiDAR sensors to market? Like, how's this going to go? And they IPO'd in December of 2020, and their tech is in the latest Volvo. So it's pretty amazing to see.
Yeah. Amazing. So look, let's get tactical for a second. Like, you've reviewed, you know, like so many pitch decks, so many like founders pitching you. Like, what's a red flag that you often see within the deck, you know, within the interview, within the meeting?
Sure. Gosh. Ooh, red flags. Lying is a huge red flag. That's an absolute no-go. Sometimes people try to stretch the truth. And oftentimes that's not even in the pitch deck or a meeting, but sometimes, the sad state of affairs is that a lot of people lean on signals to try to show that they can do the things that they can do. And so we've had it happen many times where investors will reach out to us. Oh, I heard that you're investing in such and such a team. I'm like, we had the intro meeting. We're not investing yet, like it might. And that is a hard line stop for us, actually. And so, yeah, being intellectually honest, business honest, all of that, really, really important. And I've been surprised, actually. It doesn't happen a ton, but it happens enough where I think the message needs to get out there that trying to drive some sort of FOMO tactic by saying that someone else is involved when they're not a great move. I'm trying to think of anything in like a deck specific. We start relationships with people usually sort of pre-deck. We get to know founders when they're makers before they become founders. But like in decks specifically, I mean, one of the things that we're always mentoring our teams on is that attention is super limited. And this isn't a red flag. This is just like how to do, sort of good marketing materials. But you want to start with your like big vision right up front and then work backwards into the details instead of being like 16 slides in, tons of details. You're like, what do these people do? What problem are they solving? So, those are a couple things that come to mind.
I mean, the VC ecosystem, especially in SF, it's too small for you to lie and consistently get away with it.
That's why I'm always surprised when people do it, because I'm like, do you think people don't talk? Of course they talk. I
know. And then the other point around like getting in super early with the right founders and doing it like relationship driven. Like most people just don't do that. Like it's a numbers game. So like the fact that you take the time to nurture and get them at the early stage, it's why you found some of the winners that you have, I imagine. Yeah, no, absolutely. We've had a number of our founders who have started as grantees with us when they were in high school, or maybe they were in college, or maybe they were taking a gap year, and we offered them a 1K grant, and then that turned into starting their company. So an example of this is Ethan at Mock Industries. My colleague Michael spoke with him when he was in high school. They had a phone call. Apparently he was in his physics class when Michael called him. Ethan had to pretend he was running to the bathroom to take this call with Michael to talk about how he actually wanted to innovate, on a new type of rifle, actually, at the time. Michael gave him $1,000 to start working on that. That's non-dilutive, it's a grant. And that led into him building Mock Industries, which is, becoming a main player defense tech company now. They just raised their Series B round. And so it's been amazing to see, wow, here's what can happen when you put real honest belief capital into somebody. And our thesis is really that young people are used to being given money as like an award, as a prize for something, but they're not used to being given resources on the front end to say, hey, show me what you can do. Like, let's see. And that grant program has been a wonderful way to meet people who become future founders with us. And that belief of helping people early is something that you previously did really well when you were on the founding team of the fellowship. So I mean, that's famous for backing some of the most successful college dropouts in the world. I mean, I'm a dropout myself, so I can relate to it. But why do you think dropouts often make such highly successful entrepreneurs? Because it's at the point where it's definitely not a fluke. There's definitely some correlation in the data right now. Yeah, no, absolutely. I think my personal view on this is that when you're bucking a system to build something, and when you're bucking a system in general, that means you have to have pretty strong conviction in what you're doing and in yourself to say, hey, I'm not going to wait. I have so much conviction. I'm going to kind of go against the grain. In some cases, go against their families and say like, hey, I know mom and dad, you're super nervous about this, but now is the time. School is always going to be there. If I want or need to go back, I can do that. And I think I think people taking that step, I mean, that's them putting their own belief capital into themselves and giving themselves their own permission to do something that most people are going to say, you shouldn't do, you can't do, you should wait till later. And so I think that act of giving yourself permission by breaking out of a common system is a high indicator. And that's one reason why
when we started 1517, after our first 5 years at the Teal Fellowship running it, we said we want to keep the same thesis here because we really think there's something to it, when someone really just takes that left turn.
Yeah. No, I mean, like, I can relate. When I dropped out, like, I had to make it work. I would have, like,
Right, you burned the bridges,
yeah,
or burned the boat.
yeah, exactly right. Like,
Yeah.
I would have, like, it sounds extreme, but I would have rather died than it not work out because, like, it
Right.
was,
Yeah.
but that's why it has. Like, it's really what you have to do. This is a quick message to tell you about my company, Alpha AI. We built Lisa, the world's first AI-powered recruiter who screens candidates for you on autopilot. You can make your recruitment process 10 times faster, 90% lower cost, and significantly improve the candidate experience, all with our AI agent for hiring. Learn more at welovealpha.com or click the link below in the description. And now, back to the episode. You've been a VC in some very, very successful companies. What's a hard lesson that you've learned from doing this, which maybe a lot of people don't talk about? Like, what have you learned? War wounds, scars?
Sure. I mean, one of my biggest learnings, and I feel like I'm actually coming into this learning kind of like between last year and this year, is that the market is 99% of everything and your agency is 1%, but you have to put in 1,000% of your agency into that 1%. And it's hard. Like, we've seen people build some really great tech, but they couldn't get it to market. It wasn't the right time. There wasn't a VC ecosystem to support certain arenas. We've been in things like deep tech for quite a while. We call it sci-fi tech at 1517. But in the early days of 1517, there weren't that many, this is 10 years ago, there really wasn't anybody looking in these spaces. It was pretty few and far between. So the ecosystem didn't uphold what's happening now. And so I think, the sort of like harshest lesson is that, like, that market matters. It matters for fundraising. It matters for selling. And there's part of me that just, always wants to believe everybody can, like, get through everything. I'm a high agency person. I believe in human agency. And, we all saw with things, obviously, like COVID and market downturns, and even, market positivity where things are super inflated, where you're like, wow, everything's amazing. And it's like, okay, well, maybe that's a blip in the radar. Maybe the last few years have been a blip in the radar. And so really trying to take on some of the global macro learnings has been our role at 1517, and trying to espouse them as much as we can to founders. Sometimes we say this in a funny way. When I first started 1517 with Michael, I used to think, like, oh, we're a small little micro fund. Our first fund is 20 million. So that means we're in, like, safe harbor off to the side of global macro, which is the big ocean. And what I learned was that, no, we're not in safe harbor. It just means we're in a dinghy in the middle of the ocean being sloshed around. And our founders have, like, floaties on in the middle of the ocean. And sometimes I joke and say that, A16Z is like an aircraft carrier. Maybe 1517 now with our fourth fund is maybe more like a speedboat. But no matter what kind of vehicle you are, you still have to understand the water you're in. And it's an incredibly heavy lift to do that. And I think it's something that's incredibly hard for founders to understand as well. And so those are the types of things where everyone has to be eyes wide open about what's happening in the world on a much more global scale than ever before.
Certainly. I mean, I love that comment around it all being about the agency, because at the end of the day, like, the market can be up, it can be down.
Yeah, but you gotta look at it eyes wide open and tackle what you can.
You can't control
and not
that.
only tackling what you can, but also when the times are good, you gotta, like, capitalize on that as hard as you can as well.
Yeah. Like, you can't control a lot of the external factors. Like, so just quit complaining about it. Just like, focus on you and what you can do. I mean,
that's right. That's exactly right. And we see this a lot too. In psychology, there's the theory about internal versus external locus of control. And if someone has an internal locus of control, then you're always saying, okay, what can I do about this? Even if you're up against a big David and Goliath type of problem. keeping that locus of control is so much more enabling of like, okay, I'm going to try to do something about this instead of feeling like, the wave is going to come hit me and there's nothing I can do.
Yeah, certainly. Like when I've angel invested, it's always been the number one thing that I look for. Like if this person had everything taken away from them, like within a year, could they get a lot of it back? And like the people that are the high agency people, they're the people that are just getting lucky. I mean, they're creating their own luck at the end of the day.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. Okay. So look, you mentioned earlier on your sci-fi thesis, and I love on your website, you said that you invest in sci-fi scientists, which is like such a cool term. Like I have never seen that on a VC's website, and I've interviewed hundreds. So
yeah, exactly.
cool. Usually it's we're founder friendly or whatever the usual thing. But this is unique, it's creative. So look, what emerging tech feels overhyped to you, but it could still have a breakout moment? When I say overhyped to you, I'm more overhyped to everybody else. Like everyone's maybe thinking it's here, but it hasn't quite had its sort of AGI moment yet. Like what are you tracking at the moment?
Sure. So for us, it is more, and this is true from the days at the Teal Fellowship too. It's not that we necessarily say, hey, 15 has a novel theory about what the future looks like, but more that we're really good at spotting people who have that kind of vision for the future and that ability to start executing towards it. So when we met Vitalik before he launched Ethereum, it was like, we lightly knew about blockchain and crypto, but very lightly. And so then talking to him, it was like, okay, he is irrationally passionate about this area. He has this really big vision of where things are going and how there will be systemic change through this. And that's kind of what we're looking for, someone who has that vision. When we started 1517, we didn't explicitly have this like sci-fi scientist thesis. We had our non-degreed thesis, people who don't have a college degree, no matter what they're working in, like come talk to us. And then what we noticed was interesting is we kept getting meetings with people who were building space companies, people who were building quantum computing, energy companies, things like that. But sometimes they'd have degrees and we were like, wait, this is not our thesis. What do we do? And in year 3, we backed Atom Computing, quantum computing company. And this founder, Ben, is absolutely brilliant. And after the meeting, Michael and I turned to each other and like, what do we do here? Like, this keeps happening to us. And we thought, okay, well, if we were going to break our thesis of dropouts, what would make them proud? It'd be like, okay, in the name of science fiction. So that's our bar. Now, my favorites now, actually, to be really honest, are the people who are doing like the sci-fi stuff and they're non-degreed. And we're finding that the barriers to getting started early are coming down because of things like AI tools, because of things like, the new leaders coming up who are maybe in their teens or early 20s. They've watched people like Palmer Luckey and Dylan Field build companies from when they were 20. And so I think they understand, hey, that's something that's attainable. You can start earlier. And also you're going to spend 100% of your adult life on something. It better be something important. So that's what gets me really excited these days, is meeting those young people who are working on sci-fi tech.
With a lot of those extremely hard sci-fi tech areas, whether it's space, whether it's robotics, whether, whatever, the really exciting thing to me is now that AI has started to reach the exponential growth chart, the innovation in these deep tech areas, which usually would take decades, will pretty soon start to happen in years or months. And that's when like a lot of the deep tech investments that were made a decade ago, which people that might not be as appealing today in a SaaS world, like they're gonna suddenly become extremely valuable if this stuff starts to actually work.
Right, absolutely. And we're seeing, we're also seeing like, companies that we've been working with for almost 10 years at this point, like applying new technologies to the things they're already doing, which is expanding like the growth curve on what they can do. And that's been really amazing to see over time. And back to also thinking about, hey, the market is everything, but also like technology is everything. So sometimes a new technology comes into play and it accelerates an entire field. And that's always really exciting to see. So yeah, I'm like super curious about what's going to happen in the next 10 years. in these arenas, and we see that the barriers to young people getting access to like knowledge and even things like equipment and things like that are just coming down and down and down. So I was talking to a newer to 15, 17 LP the other day, and he's like, "What's your goal in 15 years?" And I was like, "I want to be backing 11-year-olds." Like, like we see that energy that young people have as far as like pushing something forward, and there's a positive naivete there. You don't know what's not possible sometimes, and that's a really great attribute to have.
There is a meme that there will be a unicorn run by an 11-year-old or an 18-year-old or something.
I haven't seen the 11-year-old one yet. I hope it's 11.
A young person that starts a company, and look, they're able to. You think it's going to be a thing in the next 5 years? We'll have a one-person unicorn.
One-person unicorn. That's interesting.
I'd say 5 years and 10 years. If you had to do 5 years to begin with, what do you think?
Oh, I think it's definitely possible. I think
that
definitely possible.
So in 10 years, it's inevitable?
Oh, yeah, I think so.
I think most likely, right? If it continues to get better and better with the foundational models, and someone just vibe codes something which exponentially increases, and then with with all the great workflows set up for payments now, and then they just have to go viral,
right?
It's very, very possible. I mean, like, and then in a world of agents that do all of the other jobs, I'd be surprised if it didn't happen.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, this has been super, super useful for people that want to start, grow, invest in companies. Like, if people have enjoyed this and they want to learn more, where should they go right now? Where should you direct them to?
I am probably most active on Twitter, but I always give my email address out to people, Danielle@1517fun.com. I love to hear from people and about what they're making and building. So yeah, be in touch.
Amazing. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Alfie. It was great.
Thank you so much for watching. Make sure that you click the follow or subscribe button wherever you're watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.
Introducing Lisa, the world's first AI-powered recruiter. She's an AI agent who works 24/7, screening candidates on autopilot, conducting interviews in 30 different languages, uploading all the best candidates to your applicant tracking system. Hire 10 times faster at 90% lower cost and significantly improve the candidate experience. Visit welovealpha.com to start your free trial now.